Good afternoon, everyone. Such a pleasure to be in Paris today and to see all of you. You know, I'm thrilled each time I come back to France. I was here on the stage last year, and I'm struck by the intensity and the level of talent that keeps on increasing each time I come back. OpenAI is a research company working on building artificial general intelligence, or AGI, that benefits everyone. And we're starting to see glimpses of that AGI and what it will be. It no longer feels like a theoretical concept like maybe a few years ago. And to achieve this mission, we truly believe in the iterative deployment, making sure we can put the technology in the hands of people like all of you and learn along the way to improve our models and our capabilities and products. And the top focus for us at OpenAI is to empower the best developers, founders, entrepreneurs like many of you in this room to make sure you can build with the best frontier AI models. And it's truly incredible to see the progress we've made since I was here last year. At the time, most of the companies, developers I was speaking with, they were kind of like experimenting with AI. They were building text-based assistant experiences. And I was showing for the first time in Europe GPT-4o and the speech-to-speech capabilities that we had at the time. We started to talk about agents, but candidly, this was quite hard to build, and the capabilities of the models were just not there yet. Well, now AI is getting deployed everywhere, and that's truly exciting. From supply chain, consumer apps, finance, customer service, every sector and every app is now benefiting from frontier intelligence. But the real breakthrough that happened in order to get there is what happened with reasoning, something we introduced back in September with the O series of model, starting with O1. And O1, for the first time, could reason through complex problems in math, finance, or strategy, science, coding. And the way it worked for O1 and now with O3 and O4 Mini, the successors, is the ability for the model to have a chain of thought. And what that means is what we refer to in the field as test-time compute, the ability for the model to kind of explore multiple paths before committing to an answer. And as a result, those models require a lot less prompting techniques now, and also a lot less context, and you get much better answers than the historical models. And it's really important to underscore that this is what that shift and the paradigm shift that happened with reasoning is the kind of backbone now enabling agents. We're coming now to a place where we have agentic AI, or that means AI that are able to take actions on behalf of users. So we went from this era of interaction with models like back and forth, asking questions, getting answers, to now a place where you can have models acting on behalf of users in the world, which is pretty exciting. And that's why at OpenAI, we keep referring to 2025 as the year of agents, the year where they finally get to work. And we'll talk mostly about agents today in this talk. Earlier this year, we launched Operator. This was our first agent that's not just able to browse the web, it's also able to take actions for you. So here you can see, for instance, this tweet from Aaron Levy describing what's happening here with due diligence for a TikTok transaction. And you see like the computer use model is able to kind of like go through tabs, fill out forms, clicking links, and navigate the internet. And what's really amazing here when you have such a model is that it can operate a computer without like having APIs or very specific interaction. It would just use a computer or a browser like a human would. And what's really amazing with this is that for companies or enterprises even, like that means driving efficiency. That means like freeing teams to work on what's most creative as opposed to doing like repetitive tasks. And so if legal needs due diligence, well, you can use Operator to spin up a folder, pull every filing you need, and scan the web. Maybe you need to book a trip and build a travel app. Well, in which case, Operator could find hotels, book flights, and navigate the internet, even like top-rated tours that may not have an API. Or if you want to stay on top of, say, volatile markets these days, well, you can have Operator having a task that kind of scans the web overnight, and you wake up every morning with a brief of what's happened. Then a few months ago, we launched a second agent that we call Deep Research. And that agent lives directly within ChatGPT. What's really cool about Deep Research is that with a very simple prompt, You can suddenly have insights that are coming from hundreds of online sources all at once, and you get like a very personalized and comprehensive report, like a PhD level report, turning like complex research into something that's now much more accessible. You know, previously you might have spent hours, if not days, to actually conduct this research here on heart conditions. Well, now in maybe like 20 or 30 minutes, you'll have something very comprehensive that you can refer to. So imagine your business wants to expand to a new country, or maybe you want to find like key clauses from multiple supplier contracts. You can fire off those deep research now. And personally, I love using it to learn more about like new topics, and I get personalized reports to learn more about them. So these are the first two agents that we launched at OpenAI earlier this year. But what's also very important to us is to enable all of you to build your own agents, to integrate agentic AI in your apps, in your products, to reach your own customers. And so, in fact, that's exactly why we built the OpenAI API back 5 years ago. That's right, we're actually celebrating the 5th anniversary of the API this week. And most people don't know this, but this was our first product before we even launched ChatGPT. And the vision for us with the API and the developer platform is to enable all of you to build these kind of experiences where you can have your users benefiting from powerful AI agents that can, turn complex tasks into something much more easily accessible for them. So we want to power your agents and let them learn and act on your terms with your guardrails, with your context, and that's why we're investing in the platform. So let me walk you through 3 pillars that we're investing in to make this possible. But first, let's talk about models. I mentioned a bit progress earlier, but truly, I want to call out the pace here and how fast everything is accelerating in AI. I'm sure you'll keep reading the news and hearing that AI is moving fast. But seriously, this even blows our minds. Like, we used to measure progress on models in years and then in months, but these days we cannot measure progress in weeks. That's the pace at which AI progress is going. And let me show you a quick recap, in fact, of what we've launched on models at OpenAI in just the last month. Let's take a look at the GPT family first. GPT 4.1 is multimodal, meaning you can use it for text, for vision, for audio. We also offer mini and nano versions that are much more efficient, and so you can use the one you need for your latency and cost needs for your specific use cases. And you can really think of GPT 4.1 as the workhorse. It's like the model you want to use to really follow the instructions and fire off any kind of task at it. We train these models, by the way, based on developer feedback, and that's how we make them better. We improved instruction following. We increased the context window up from 128K with GPT-4o now to 1 million tokens, so you can bring a lot more context into every request. And they offer exceptional performance at lower cost. Now let's talk about reasoning models. And once again, we've also refreshed that entire family just last month. With O3 and O4 Mini, these two are the smartest and most capable model we've ever built. They push the frontier across math, science, coding, visual perception, and much more. And I've mentioned coding quite a bit. We'll get back to it, but that's a real priority for us. We want to have the very best developers in the world at building software, and we really think that's how technical teams will get unimaginable leverage. We'll get to this with Codex in a bit. And so with all these models, what's also very important to us is that we want to have great models, but we want to help you deploy at scale. And we know that performance and cost go hand in hand. It's very important to have both in order for you to build agents. And so here, when you look at GPT 4.1 Nano, for instance, on the right side, everything has gotten so much cheaper to run. In 18 months, we've cut the cost of AI by 99%. That's pretty incredible when you think about it, because in any other industry, cutting costs by 99% would be terrifying. But for us, it's actually great, because every time we do so, there are more and more use cases that you come up with, and then more AI applications that you can deploy. And we know that controlling cost is what makes deployment, even in the enterprise, viable, because you need scale. And in fact, on Wednesday, just this week, 2 days ago, we've also reduced the cost of O3 by 80% with no compromise on performance. We really want you to deploy these AI agents at scale, and that's pretty incredible. Now let's talk about the second big focus for us, and that's building an agent platform. Let's face it, building an agent is actually quite hard when you get into the details of it. I've worked with many, many customers during my time at OpenAI, and there's one thing that comes up pretty frequently as a pattern. Companies, developers, enterprises, they have great ideas for an agentic application, and they just think that picking the right model for the task is all it needs. But that's actually just half of the story. That's where the rubber meets the road, because quite candidly, you need to have the right model for the right task, but you also need to bring your context. You need to have access to the right tools. You need to also evaluate performances and how that deploys in production. And that's why we're building this agents platform. The goal for us is to give you all of the building blocks that you need to build great agents that are powerful and reliable. So, APIs, tools, we'll get to that. Orchestration, evals, that's also something very hard to do. How do you stay on top of orchestration? And how do you optimize your agents? So I won't have the time to dive into all of these today, but I want to call out two that I think are pretty important. So if you look at this demo here, this is like a demo application to book travel on the left side. And on the right side, you see what our orchestration SDKs can do. And here, you can tell that as I'm trying to book a trip to Scotland, you have multiple agents that are triggered. First, a ticketing agent. Here we see an hotel agent that's using computer use to book an hotel. You also have a report agent. And so you have full visibility into the waterfall. What are the agents? What are their guardrails? What are the contexts that they have access to? And we also just introduced last week this same agents SDK in TypeScript. Very excited about this because it's going to make it much easier for you all to build full stack application that marry front end, back end, but also have all of the benefits of having this stream of agents working hand in hand. We also launched a new API underlying all of this to make them easier. We call it the Responses API. And that Responses API supports many tools out of the box. When we launched it back in February, we launched it with web search, file search, and computer use, the same model underlying operator that you can also use now in your own apps. But just recently, we also launched MCP support. We also added the ability to do code interpreter. And most recently, image generation as a tool. So you can also use that. And we keep increasing the collection of what tools are you able to access when you're building these agents for your own product and for your companies. And speaking of image generation, that brings me to the third pillar that we're investing in. And that's what we call multimodality. The ability for the model to really have access to all of the different modalities from vision to audio and so on. But I have to confess, this was the state of the art last year when I was here at VivaTech, and I was not quite proud of how kind of the landscape looked at the time because developers had to integrate with multiple APIs for all of the different modalities, and that was quite complex, DALL-E and then Whisper and so on. But GPT-4o was the turning point. This was the model where started to bring all of these modalities together, and now with 4.1, we're starting to see how all of these modalities converge into one model, one API that you can rely on much more easily, and developers are much happier now as a result. We're continuing to invest a lot in multimodality, starting with image generation. Who in the room has tried image gen in ChatGPT when it launched? Yeah, that's a lot of you. Not surprising, right? Because in just the week after launch, we had more than 700 million images generated on ChatGPT, and now we're well into the billions since launch. And when you look at what customers have done with this, companies like Adobe, Figma, here on the screen you see Photo Room, they're using image gen to turn any kind of picture of a product into a staged environment in various settings. So you can really bring these pictures to life. They can even take any kind of photo and make it more beautiful than it was. So very impressive use cases for image gen from all of these companies. Figma, for instance, make it easy for any employee to become now pretty basic designer and have some better tools at their disposal. We've also upgraded the real-time API and all the capabilities around voice and audio, transcription, text-to-speech. Just a week ago, we also improved the real-time API now with like better steerability, a new speed parameter that you can control. We made the text-to-speech models more steerable, so you can actually like adjust the tone and the vibe of the voice. There's a lot more to say about multimodality, but these are just a few call-outs I wanted to make. All right, now I want to zoom in on one group that sits at the center of a lot of this change with AI. And these are your technical teams, your software engineers. It turns out we just introduced our latest agent, Codex, specifically to augment developers. And for your technical teams, this is not about just like velocity. It's also about like bringing your 2026 roadmap and pulling it into 25. It's about shipping ideas that maybe you had for the longest time on the backlog, but they felt out of reach. And when you have like a 5x or a 10x leverage, the whole tempo of product development changes. You can go a lot faster, you can do a lot more for your own products. And for me as an engineer, it's pretty incredible to see how far like coding with AI has come. Like that was just the state of coding a few years ago. Like a single line autocomplete, which was at the time pretty compelling. But then in just a few years, we've gone from that to like, complete functions being written and then, code blocks, entire files. But now we're entering a stage where the models are so capable that you're actually able to give them much larger engineering tasks compared to what you could do back then. And so the interaction patterns also with your coding editors and your tools have to change. And our vision here for Codex is to let developers delegate a lot of tasks to coding agents, making them more productive, making them faster, but also freeing up time for them to spend it on what is most exciting and more creative. So here, for instance, we imagine a world where developers can delegate a lot of their tasks to like their teammates in the cloud, like AI teammates of sorts. Maybe they can write code, build features for them, but also everything that's like the intricacy of software engineering, running tests, or like fixing bugs, migrating legacy code, and so on and so forth. And that's why now with tools like Codex, developers can spend more time or they feel more creative. And we're starting to see this emerge in two different ways. First is Codex CLI, which we launched alongside O3. Codex CLI is a very lightweight coding agent that lives locally on your terminal. So what that means is that developers can play with it and explain in plain language what they want to get built. And if we take a look at this example here, for instance, I'm simply saying, well, explain this entire code base to me. And then the model will go on and explain what happens in that code base with like complete understanding, even if you have like thousands and thousands of files. But I can also ask to generate docs. I can ask to build features and create production quality code. It also excels at multimodal understanding, but we'll see that in a live demo right after. But where things get really interesting is when developers don't have to just pair with one AI agent or teammate locally on their Mac, it's when you start thinking about what if you had a cloud-based agent that is now a team of AI agents that can work and pick up tasks for me and parallelize a lot of this work. And that's why we introduced Codex in research preview. It's a cloud-based agent that engineers can use to delegate work in the cloud. So the way it works is that you can connect your GitHub repository with your code base, and then what's going to happen is like there's going to be for every task a container spun up in the cloud securely and private that the model will be able to work through and work with. So it's going to have access to our terminal to read the files, edit code, and so on and so forth. And our goal with this is to make sure that the code that's produced is actually great quality code that developers want to merge, not just code that looks good on benchmarks. And that's why we built Codex One. It's a custom, fine-tuned model based on O3 using the reinforcement fine-tuning technique. And so we have this great model that now generates high-quality code optimized for what you want to merge in production. And we started to launch Codex here with this very simple UI within ChatGPT. But we want a Codex agent to be ubiquitous, ultimately. Like any kind of tool you have, you should be able to access your Codex agent, whether it's your coding editor or maybe your terminal and your issue tracker. And that's a big bet for OpenAI. We want to make sure that developers have great AI agents they can rely on to produce great quality code. And so far, developers have loved it. Here is an example of a developer that used Codex right after the launch, like a few hours after the launch, and he created 50 pull requests with Codex, and he told us he merged all of them, actually. They were high quality. Another engineer told me that same launch weekend that they managed to migrate an entire code base in one shot in 12 minutes. The developer was shocked because he told me he had planned to work on it for 3 full weeks, and all of a sudden, Codex could do it in 12 minutes and done. So that's pretty incredible. And we launched Codex with almost no rate limits. So as you can tell on the screen, Ryan and developers enjoy having generous rate limits to take advantage of it. And now Codex is available to ChatGPT Plus users as well. Lastly, we added Codex to the mobile app too. So that's pretty cool because you don't even have to be now on your computer. You can start thinking about ideas. You can start being on the go, firing off tasks to Codex. And then ultimately, you'll be able to review pull requests of fresh code when you're back at your desk. But with all of that, enough code, I think it's time to see some live demos. So I'm going to show you some Codex CLI demos, and we'll get a sneak peek into the Codex agent as well. All right. So what you're looking at here on the screen is a very simple demo app that we built to introduce the new text-to-speech models. We called it openai.fm. So it basically lets you pick a voice, a vibe, type a script, you hit play.
Good afternoon, Viva Tech. To everyone here and everyone joining us online, welcome.
Great. So imagine now I have this project I'm working on, but I want to start making some modifications to it. So I'm going to open up the terminal, and what you're looking at here is the Codex CLI. And the first thing I did was asking Codex to explain this code base to me for openai.fm. So as you can tell, it goes on to explore the code base. It looks at every possible file. And then we have this interesting thing here, right? Right away, the CLI is able to tell me, OK, I've analyzed the whole code base. This is how it's structured. It even pointed out the interesting pieces here where I integrated OpenAI text-to-speech, for instance, where the routes are, and so on. And so pretty compelling that I have this agent locally on my machine. But then, of course, explaining a code base is interesting, but I can do much more. So then I opened this second window to save us a bit of time. Once again, this one is running Codex Mini. And then I said, you know what? I looked at this app, and when I turned dark mode, it was actually not working, not implemented. And so I thought, you know what? Change the top left logo to vivatech.fm, implement dark mode based on the macOS settings, also turn the orange accent to a beautiful purple, because that's the theme of this stage, right? And then as soon as I fired off this task locally on my machine, the Codex agent was able to break it down, try to understand what to do. I will scroll fast here because it was browsing the entire code base to figure out what to do. It was searching for the accent color and so on. It's starting to make the dark mode integration, as you can tell. It's updating the CSS logo and so on. Pretty compelling to see it do all of these things on my local code base. And then after a minute or so, this is what it did. So it did change the VivaTech title, made the dark mode all work perfectly. It made the accent color in purple. And then if I switch back, everything still works fine. So very compelling. And then I can fire off one more task and keep on going. Maybe I could say, what could I say here? Maybe I could say, implement a new vibe called Paris Tour Guide. And then, it will figure out where this is displayed. It will also look at the code. I should probably have told it to make it default. But it will now just go on and do this task, and we don't have to watch it. But this is pretty compelling. Now, while it's working on this, I want to show you a second demo. What if I'm working on something that requires multimodal reasoning, and I'm actually starting from scratch with no project here? So what I'll take here is this piece of paper that I started to sketch on. I'm going to try to bring the camera so you can see what I'm looking at. So I'm starting to draw a little bit like a VivaTech booth app, right? So I left one spot here which I need to fill out. So we're going to do that together. Here I'm going to say that I want a filter called Paris Glow, since we're in Paris. And then here, I'm going to say add countdown. Flash 3, 2, 1. Great. So now, what you're looking at here is my beautiful VivaTech photo booth. I'm going to try and go ahead and take a screenshot of this, if I can. So let's see. Very clunky way to take a screenshot, but bear with me. Okay, maybe right there. Cool. Okay, now that we have this screenshot, I'm just going to pass it right away to Codex. So we'll see what happens. So here, I just mentioned to Codex that I have this image to look at, the screenshot we just took. It's going to take a few minutes of thinking, but it's going to analyze that sketch and figure out what to do with it. OK, so now it's asking for clarification, obviously, because I have not explained what I'm trying to do. But as you can tell, it definitely understood it was a photo booth app with some filters. It even found out the Paris glue I just wrote. So I'll just say implement this as a simple HTML page, elegant design using the web camera API. Enter. And now we'll see. It's going to probably take a minute or so to figure it out, but it would take me much, much longer to figure out how to use the user media API on the web and so on. So I'll just give it this task, and we'll let it run in the background, and we'll come back to it in a minute or so. So that's Codex CLI, once again, like an open source agent running on your computer. But as I said earlier, when things get really interesting, is like, what if I can not have like this one task running at a time on my machine, but I can fire off a bunch of tasks? Let's look at Codex on the web. So here, I have Codex open on this OpenAI FM repo we were looking at. And I can start firing off a bunch of tasks from here. So as you can tell, I have a few that I've already done. We'll look at them. But here, I'm going to fire off a task, let's say, find a bug and fix it. So very ambiguous task, but we'll just let Codex figure it out, navigate the code base, and so on. Now, what if I want to do something more interesting? Maybe I'll say, well, I have this script here to type. I'll just turn on dictation for this one. Hey, so I'm thinking there is a script on the right side. It would be kind of cool if we had a little microphone icon on the bottom right, and maybe when I click it, you can actually transcribe what I'm saying into the text using the latest OpenAI models. OK? Sounds great. We're going to fire off this task to Codex, and Codex will have to figure it out. Maybe I can also say, the sound wave effect on the play button does not look real to me. I'd like to replace this animation with the real sound wave, so just figure out how to implement it. Boom, I'm going to fire off this task as well. So what's happening now on the screen? I just fired off tasks, and each and every one of them now is starting a new container. So if I look at this one, for instance, it's now like spinning up a container, cloning the GitHub repo. It's going to go through all of the setup scripts to install everything. It's a Next.js project. And then it's probably going to take like a couple minutes or 3 minutes to figure it out. But it's going to go through everything in that one container and work on it. So I can just leave it behind, and we'll come back to it. So now I just fired off 3 tasks with you all on stage. But since they're going to take a little bit of time, let's switch to one that I just fired off already. This one, I know it's painful for all of us developers to localize apps in so many languages each time. Well, I just fired off a task, which was extract all the strings in this app and make it work in French and Spanish. Well, right away, Codex went to the task, extracted all of the possible strings, and then it made like, everything that we had to do to extract all of this. And if I scroll to the bottom, we have the fr.json file, we have the Spanish one, and I can even say, great, do it for all languages in Europe. And I can go ahead and ask it to code it. But what's interesting here now is this button on top, create pull request. Oops, I guess I just clicked archive because it disappeared. But let's go back to this other one. Let's see this one, for instance, implement dark mode. I can just go ahead and click create pull request, and that will create a pull request on GitHub that my coworkers can review, and we can just right away merge it into production. So that's a preview of Codex agent with those 3 tasks we fired off. They're going to take a few more minutes, but I wanted to give you a feel for new tasks and tasks already completed. Now, let's go back quickly to what happened in our terminal here. Let's take a look. It sounds like our photo booth app was complete. So let's open it and see what happened. All right, I have to allow the camera, and we have a VivaTech photo booth. Great, it just worked. So I don't think anyone has taken selfies with laptops before, but we can probably try. Let's see if it put the countdown. It did put the countdown. And there we go. We have a photo booth app, 0 shot, using Codex CLI. So that gives you an idea of using Codex locally on your machine to build tasks, or Codex agent in the cloud to take on all of your most complex tasks for your backlog. Now, last but not least, I have one last thing to show you before we part. I'm going to bring here this little drone that I programmed initially with O1. So when O1 came out with reasoning, one of the first tasks I wanted to show O1 and try was this idea: could we have O1 actually interface with this device without me knowing anything about it? I don't have to read documentation. I know it's a programmable drone because it's made for education, but I wanted O1 to figure it out on its own. So I did that. I'm going to connect to it over Wi-Fi. But what's new here is that, of course, since I did that just 6 months ago, the capabilities of AI have increased a ton, especially around multimodality. And so I thought, well, it's kind of nice to have these buttons, but what if I could enter voice mode to talk to it instead? So we're going to try that in a sec. I'm going to switch over to the server of this, try to connect to it. Let's go back to it here. We are connected. Great. And I can see the battery level show up. Great. And I'm going to start the video. Great. Let's enter voice mode. Hi there.
How can I help you?
Yeah, could you tell me about your capabilities?
I can take off, fly around, and help you with some video analysis of your surroundings.
That's great. Could you actually take a look at what you see now?
Sure, I'm going to take a look around. It looks like a conference room with a large audience facing a stage and screens. The lighting is purple and everyone looks attentive.
That's right. That's exactly that. Could you transform the frame you're seeing into like a style of a Monet painting?
Which style would you like exactly?
You know, like a Monet painting. You can pick.
Got it. I'm on it.
Great. And while you're working on this, can you tell me your battery level?
The battery level is at 88%.
That's right. Could you do a quick, demo flight for us in the room?
Absolutely. Let's add a little excitement to the room. Here we go. I'm flying now for a quick demo. Let me know what you think. I hope that little flight looked good from your view.
Amazing. That sounds great. And we have the beautiful Monet painting of you all that I have to save.
I'm glad you like it. Let me know if you need any more artistic transformations or any other help.
Thank you, AI agent. We're good to go. I think they enjoyed it.
Good.
All right. So these were a couple demos of Codex, CLI, Codex agent, and how you can bring all of this together with multimodality. Now let's go back to the presentation to wrap us up, because you might be wondering what's next for OpenAI. Well, I wanted to call out two models that we've already mentioned publicly, but were not part of the presentation today just yet, so we're going to fix that. First, an open model. We're super excited to bring a new open weight model to the community. We've had several listening sessions with many developers to listen to their feedback, their wish list, including here in Europe. We've learned a ton, we've gathered great insights, and we're hard at work building one. Sam tweeted just Tuesday here that it's going to take us a little more time because we think it's going to be pretty awesome. But so we are hard at work on this, and you can still expect this summer. Pretty excited to see what the community will do with this. And second, of course, GPT-5. Sam telegraphed our roadmap earlier this year. We know with this space of change in AI, The model names have become quite complex to follow along with O3, O4 Mini, GPT-4, 4.1. So we're truly excited to not just make a net new great frontier model, we're also going to unify our two series. So the breakthrough of reasoning in the O series and the breakthroughs in multimodality in the GPT series will be unified, and that will be GPT-5. And I really hope I'll come back soon to tell you more about it. With that, thank you all so much. I can't wait to see all the agents you're going to build and how Codex will help you build faster. Thank you.